Okay, so I haven't recorded an author vlog in exactly one forever. Um, Actually, April 27th was the last vlog, book author vlog, book vlog that I've posted. And I mean, I've definitely made some progress. I don't remember what happened last when I did that one. Keep the fan from blowing in my face. I don't remember what I posted about in that one, but I don't believe I was finished with the rough draft, or yeah, I don't think I was finished with the rough draft by the time I got when it was April. But at this point now in August, and actually probably about a month or two ago, I finished the rough draft. Sitting now at like right around 30 chapters or something like that, which is more than I thought. I thought it was going to end up being like 26 chapters, but as I was going through, kind of not really cleaning up, but I was checking the chapter sizes. Turned out a couple of them were like 22 pages long, which is just too long. Even though those were both, I think, like fight scene chapters, that's still way too much, and it feels way too long. So I cut those basically. I found a good point to split them either in half or like 60-40, and that increased the chapter number and also hopefully made that flow better. And then when I actually am going through again, or not again, but like when I continue going through and cleaning up the rough draft for a first draft, then hopefully I can make the intros and outros to those chapters, meld and flow a little bit better. Because they're kind of like hard cuts, and maybe I cleaned it up a little bit, but yeah, at this point, 30 chapters in. Actually, I just posted on Facebook because it was 1 year since I posted a status update of the progress of book two. So in 1 year, I made a lot of progress. I'm gonna pull it up right now so I can look at it, just so I can document on camera. Okay, so 1 year ago, August 12th, 2020, book progress update on Facebook was 60,000 words, 110 pages, and 10 completed chapters. I basically tripled everything. For this year, August 12th is when I shared the memory, obviously the same day. 140,000 words, 363 pages, and 30 completed chapters. So definitely significant progress. In 1 year, I tripled my production outside of the words. Word count is not exactly triple, but pretty much everything else is, and then some. So that's great progress. I am happy with that progress, and it really doesn't feel like it really doesn't feel like I did that much. I mean, it does, but I guess I was at the library like pretty consistently for like a month at a time. I'd spend 3 out of 4 weeks in a month, 5 out of 7 days at the library, just writing for, I don't know, 2 hours on average a day. So I was putting in probably 10 or so hours a week in writing in that time period, and it definitely helped not working at the kitchen, working at Golden View where I am now still at this moment, working at Golden View, going in at 3 o'clock for most of my average shifts, allotted me 11 to 1:30 p.m. Most days to go to the library. But I was like dedicated to doing that writing. But now, since I'm in the rough draft phase, I've kind of drifted from that, and I've been working on the mini series, which I keep doing. I keep doing book two progress, and then go to another series. Book two progress, go to another book. But I'm working on a mini series that right now is called Dogma, and it's basically, to explain to anybody who doesn't know, is, as opposed to me explaining it to myself because I know, which is why I explained it like that. It's the beginning. It's God and the creation of everything, how the council came to be, how the heaven and hell stuff kind of works, i.e., underworld, and then the great recycling of souls and consciousness and stuff, and basically allotting to how the council became the council, how the desire for balance became a thing, and then how sin fell from that grace, and how we get to essentially the background plot, or not the background plot, because it was always the background plot. Sins, not to be clever, were always the driving issue for how everything came to be in book one in the background, because we're only seeing it from Kim's perspective, and in my opinion, Kim isn't even the main character of the series. She's the main character of book one, and a very prominent character in book two, and in Transgression. and also a little bit at the end of Impurity, because Destro and Felix leave to go to Kim without knowing who they're going after. They just sense an energy. And then, obviously, Hippolyta, which leads to Kim. So Kim is always a staple character, even when not mentioned. She's the centerpiece of our experience in the story, for the most part. Because hers is the only story, Book 1 and Book 2 are the only stories that feature I, me, my as the narration in the book, as opposed to he, she, they for describing characters. So when you're reading Book 1 and Book 2, you're from I, me, my perspective for the main line of characters. But Kim is a centerpiece of this story that we're following because she's by all rights the special one. But in my opinion, Kim's not the main character of the series. Chrism is the main character of the series, but in a shadow sense. Because obviously in Book 1, so much stuff is happening that you have no idea that Chrism is doing the background. I mean, she's, responsible for a main character's death, leading to, one of the main driving ambitions. She's responsible for a lot of background manipulation for getting certain characters to certain places. She's responsible for, Lusk being able to soul overlap to Kim's soul, and thus allowing her to trudge up that ditch energy that has been building inside of her for like 15 years, and to test her resolve with Alice. Gave her that 6-month reprieve with Alice, so I almost said Alex, so their bond can grow, and so Kim and Alice can more uniquely establish an understanding of each other's energies and kind of practice, and also allowing Chrism in the background to go take care of a lot of underworld stuff, a lot of underlying fiend plots. Magcro and Sin reestablish a connection with Sin in a trustworthy sense, and so Chrism is, in all intents and purposes, the main character of the series, while Kim is the main character of our story that we follow. And all that kind of goes into the background plot of Book 2, where we learn a lot of just everything that was happening in the background. Because obviously in Book 1, we're just getting Kim's perspective of her daily life and her experience with Sin, Tuffle, and the hellscape that is the other side of life, the evil in life of demons and such, and that stuff exists. Whereas in Book 2, we get, the explanation of the origins and the race of all of this, where everything from Book 1 culminated, and we get an answer for pretty much everything. Because there's still so many lingering mysteries of Book 1 at the end that we're left with, I'm not going to go over them here, but I'm always curious to see what questions people have by the end of Book 1, because they should have plenty, and that's by design, because that's why there's a sequel. Book 2 answers not pretty much every question, but every question that you should have after Book 1, and if you still have more, that's why you have the Origins miniseries, and that's why you have this audio thing, Dogma, that I'm writing it, but I'm not publishing it physically. I might go back and transcribe and fix it and actually publish it that way, but I'm doing it as an audio thing, and actually I have it playing in the background just to get the watch, on YouTube, and it's just a voiceover of all that background stuff, because it goes from Sin's, the creation of the Council, Sin's fall, how Sin discovered making the anima and what his reasons were originally, and how that, progressed into him trying to save himself from how he got himself into this situation, and then how that led to all the Tuffle being a thing. So, and on top of all that, I have other book ideas, because Book 2, like I said, rough draft is done, and I'm going through it, and I'm cleaning it up, and I got to a couple scenes where I was rewriting. I rewrote the entire beginning chapter of Book 2 for the better, because it was always the same from the beginning. Since I wrote it's not the synopsis, but the blueprints of Book 2 5 years ago, it's always been the same. It's always been the same dream sequence where, for record's sake, Tansu is walking along a paved road, her road leading to her house, with a mysterious figure that we find out to be her dad, and they're meeting up with somebody, and it turns out they're meeting up with Kim, and it's a nice moment. It's a very sad. We get to just kind of see how their connection was, and where Tansu's little handhold thing comes from, and it's her holding her dad's thumb, because she was always so much smaller and he had bigger, meatier hands, so she always held his thumb like that. That's why she holds her thumb like that. And we kind of get that more of an explanation, and not even an explanation because we get that in book 1, but an example of that and what it means to her in this context. And then it quickly dissolves into a nightmare that hints at the harsh reality that Tansu and our characters find themselves in. Then it wakes up, and then, we wake up into the story. So I changed that beginning dream to a different dream, and this is a dream that actually is up until the last moment of the dream where it dissolves into a nightmare, is all canonical to an event that happened. And we go back to that 6-month time jump that Chrism left Kim, Alice, and Tansu in, and in that 6 months was December for Kim's birthday, and we go back to her birthday where she's celebrating it at Tansu's house with her mom, her, and Joey, and we get a nice little scene of that, and then it dissolves into a nightmare. So we get a little bit of an explanation to see how happy they were in that time period, while also bringing us back to the cold, harsh reality of where we find ourselves now. Because I wanted the beginning chapter to be an emotional chapter kind of thing, obviously. So, yeah. And I'm also working on a specific character manipulation and torture scene that I'm writing and rewriting. I had to go back and rewrite essentially a ditch scene for how this character interprets the ditch, because it is different a little. It restructures itself based on the soul that's in the ditch, and it's all an allusion to the consciousness and the energy of the soul, because it's personalized and customized to be your own hell. So how you see the ditch is how you see the ditch. Get the fuck up. So I rewrote how the ditch, because I found myself in a rut of repeating myself with these weird scenarios being a bunch of long linear hallways with doors and stuff, which is creepy and fine, but I've done hallways a lot. With school, with Kim's soul chamber was like, it was pitch black, and it was kind of like more of a dungeon-esque, but it was long, craggy hallways of like tilted rock and stuff. So kind of like going through, thinking about like spelunking, like you're going through like these like angled cave walls and stuff kind of thing. It's still hallways, it's still corridors. So I wanted to shake that up, because I wrote it there knowing I was probably going to change it, but not to the extent that I did change it. I drastically changed it. And then that leads to another scene with the manipulation and torture that I was thinking of different ways for it to go, and I think I found a good way to not waste too much time. Because the sequence I had planned was basically going to be a full chapter of the reader thinking like we're home and we're safe and everything, and then it quickly turns bad kind of thing. It was a gotcha kind of moment, but I didn't want that to take too long and to detract from the pacing that we found ourselves in, especially with everything that comes next. It would have felt like too large of a detraction from where we were and where we were leaving, so I had to do kind of the same thing but dial it back a little bit. I don't know what that email was at. PayPal, your sales may qualify for seller protection. Go fuck yourself. So that's where we are in book 2. I'm working on that, but I haven't really touched book 2 in a couple of weeks. Like I said, I've been working on this dogma thing, and then just thinking in the background of, I have other stories of Tuffle I want to write. I have, 1, 2, 3, 4 other stories I plan on writing, origins stories, but they're all non-essential. But the way that I want to do them is very it's unique in the way of how I've told these stories. Obviously, they're being told from a first-person perspective, a narrative perspective following one character or set of characters, and it's pretty straightforward. It's Destro and Lust's experience with, or their human hosts, their experience of dealing with the Tuffle and the human, and how they got to where they meet and interact with Kim in book 1. But these characters would be a total departure. One of them would be a character that we meet in one of the other origin stories, but the way I want to tell this character's story, this character Gier, I want to tell, he's the Tuffle, I want to tell his story in a way from the human's perspective of not, bad things happen, leads to a deal, leads to the Tuffle, leads to whatever have you. I want to go by that structure. I want to change up the structure and explore and kind of deepen the lore but with those stories, because those stories aren't needed, but I want to use those stories because they do connect to the main storyline as a way to sprinkle more diverse lore in the other books. So Gier's story would be called Geist, and it would be following essentially how the Ditch works and breaks down the human soul from the human's perspective. And obviously that would deepen the lore, and it would be its own contained thing, and it wouldn't be very long. It would be less than 100 pages is what I plan on, and I already started writing it. Plus I wanted to start writing Christine's backstory, and because that's very important, but that also would be very short because we'd only be going 2 or so days before Sin crashes into her life in the very literal sense, and then we kind of get the blackout of her turning into a monster, essentially, animalistic, and losing her humanity. So the story would really just be the 2 or 3 days leading up to her losing herself, basically. So that would be a pretty short story as well, but we do cover that story in Book 2 as Chrism gives an explanation of that, but not in great detail. And this also wouldn't be that in great detail, but it would give us a little bit more sense of her character and who she was before. So, I don't know. I have a lot of projects I'm working on, and I really don't know what to prioritize. That's my issue right now. I have no idea how to prioritize what I want to work on mostly, but I'm doing what I can, and it's keeping me busy. Looking forward to this winter when it's going to be less miserable, being hot and sweaty and feeling uncomfortable, Hopefully the winter can motivate me to write more, because I like that scenery. So, yeah, I think that's it for this update. Much longer than I expected it to be. So, yeah, that's it.